Hey everyone, welcome back to Dakota's Music World. I'm Dakota Gordon, and today I'm joined by vocalist and multi-instrumentalist Nad Sylvan. Nad is truly one of the defining voices in progressive rock today. Many of you may know him as the lead singer for the Steve Hackett Band, where he tours the world bringing Genesis classics back to life. But beyond this, he's also an incredible artist in his own right, creating some really unique and powerful music, including his newest album, Monumentata, which we'll be diving into today. Nad, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me.
Now, before we get into some of your newer work, I want to go back in time a little bit, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
So, when you started out learning music, you started on piano at a pretty early age, but you didn't actually begin singing until your early teens. When did you
That's
first
fine.
realize that you had that kind of powerful, expressive voice that could allow you to be a lead singer?
Well, good question. I initially thought I did, but I didn't. I started to audition for bands as a lead singer when I was about 14, before my voice had broke. It sounded really awkward, and I didn't get the gig. I didn't get a gig. I did get a gig when I was 16 with a band, and the guys were about 10 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
And we toured the Sweden. Yeah, that was very young and naive, and we toured Sweden during weekends. Uh, I don't see. I didn't set out to be a singer really. It's just that I was writing songs and I was singing them because somebody should sing them, right? So I could hear what they sounded like. And from there, I started to develop, so this idea of becoming a singer, because I want to be a pop star when I was 15, 16. That was my goal, to be famous,
Hmm.
that didn't happen. Well, now somewhat, because I hung in there for years and years and years, and things happened. But I think the voice that I have today, early signs of that started to occur when I was about 32, 33. And by accident, I don't know, I pushed the voice somehow, or did something to it that I hadn't done before, and it became really powerful. And I thought, wow, what did I do to this? And from then on, I started to gain more confidence as a singer, because I was getting more in control of my voice. But still, that's 30 years ago roughly, and I'm still on like a learning curve, if you like. I'm still picking up new things, what I can do with the voice. And it's quite interesting because um, you know when you sort of have progressed, and you also know when been stepping back, like, to where you were a year ago, because you've forgotten some of the technique. Singing is an art form, believe me.
Yeah, yeah. Singing, I think a lot of people don't think of it as an instrument, but your voice is definitely an instrument.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things one can do with it, and phrasing, and using your whole skull when you sing, and where you put the vowels, and you can put the A's and O's down here, and you can go back here and back in the throat. So much you can do. It's very much about being aware of what you're doing, you know, being in control.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it, just being aware of how you're changing things to make the sound you want. Uh,
Yeah.
and and once you started kind of finding your voice, your early career had some interesting turns. I read that in 1983 you actually released a disco single in
Yes.
Swedish. It was called
Yes.
Midnight.
Yeah.
What? How did that come about? Because a disco single is just very different to everything else that I think you've pretty much done since then.
Back then, I was getting desperate, to be honest. I want, hence the choice of genre.
Hmm.
Uh, Early 80s, Sweden, you could not get a record deal if you were singing in another country language than Swedish.
Oh, wow.
And it had to be really commercial. And I thought, okay, so let's try to do a Swedish disco song. Or 1982 was the year, 83 too, but 1982 was the year when I was really focusing on getting a record deal and singing in Swedish. That's the only year I've done that.
Hmm.
I abandoned that idea, like after the midnight song. I thought, no, it's not for me. So I haven't sung in Swedish since then. Um, but I landed a record deal, with that song, and it was released in 1983, and nothing happened. Of course, it wasn't a very good song
What was it about singing in English that you preferred over singing in Swedish?
because of my references, what I've been listening to. Been listening to English or American artists, so used to the English sound, and I thought it sounded better than Swedish, to be honest. Also, the musical genre was I was into either was progressive rock, it was more uh, like jazz or even hard rock, but they were all singing in English. They were my heroes, and so that's why basically I stuck with English. And then, of course, when I became a Genesis fan back in 1975, I was so hooked, and thanks to that, I have this gig that I have today.
Yeah, and kind of talking about that a little bit, I want to talk about your Unifaun album. Uh,
Mm.
because it seems like this was kind of an important moment in your career when you connected with Bonamici and you started to create Genesis inspired music together.
All right, the Uniform. Back in 2003, I'd been over to London to the Albert Hall and seen the musical box, like a tribute band doing Selling England. Little did I know that I would be standing on the same stage 10 years later with Steve Hackett, but that's
Oh,
another
wow.
story. Yeah, so I saw that and was very impressed. And I went to the Genesis forums, on their website, and just said something about the show that I loved it. And, I flew over from Sweden to London to go and see it. And then there was this guy, Bonamici, who had posted a song he'd written. It's called Tribute to Genesis or something for people to listen to, which I did. And I thought, wow, and this guy's in Sweden and it sounds pretty good. So I contacted him and said, I am Nad, I live in Stockholm, and how about trying to do some work together? And that's how it started, really. So we threw in what we had and we made an album, but it took 4 years because we just well, I just did for fun and games to start out with. We had no plans of getting a record deal or anything. We were actually approached by a record company who wanted to release music with us. So that's what happened. So the album came out in 2008. And the same year, a little later, Roine Stoltz of Flower Kings contacted me and asked if I could sing a couple of songs on his soul album because he was taking a break from that Flower Kings, his band. That became Agents of Mercy because he kept on pitching more songs my way. And so then we had a band, and so went on the road with that, made 3 albums between 2009 and 2011 and toured Europe and the United States. All of a sudden, Steve Hackett was looking for a singer for his Genesis thing, and I was headhunted for that. So here I am.
Yeah, do you think working with Agents of Mercy and being in that band and kind of getting used to that larger touring schedule prepared you at all for what you ended up doing with Steve?
No,
No?
no, and no, I couldn't say it had. I mean, we did smaller clubs
Hmm.
and shows with Agents of Mercy in Europe and in America. But the first year with Steve, you must understand, we did the classic venues. In England, we did the Hammersmith Odeon, and
Oh, wow.
well, it's now called something else, but you know what venue classic venue. And then we did the Albert Hall in the autumn. In between, we've been doing touring in Europe and the United States and big shows. And I was a rookie. I mean, I haven't been touring like that. And I was yet to find out a lot more about my voice and that I know now that I didn't know back then. I wasn't. I mean, I was okay. There were some moments I was pretty good, but there were moments I totally sucked. I really did. I was singing out of tune, and I couldn't hear myself, and with just a lot of things I had to learn. But for some reason, Steve thought that there was some authenticity in my voice for this material, and that's why he kept me, I guess.
Yeah, and you met Steve, I think, first at a Prague concert, kind of benefit concert, right, in 2009.
It was the night of the Prague festival, Lorelei, Germany. It was like a prog rock festival, basically.
how did you kind of like keep connection with him, and how did that end up with you in his band?
Okay, this was 3 years prior to him contacting me. We just met there because we played with Agents of Mercy. We had a debut show there actually, in Lorelei. And then I remember giving him the Unifaun album, but he, I think he lost it because he asked me to give it to him again a couple of years later. Oh, I gave it to you once. Oh, I don't know where it went. He said, okay. So, so I probably didn't even bother, you know. What do I know? So, so that was the first time I met him. And I was absolutely starstruck. I was just looking at how I couldn't believe I was talking to Steve Hackett, you know. Mind you, I was just an absolute Genesis nut. Crazy, but yeah. So standing there talking to the real thing. Now, that's what was that, 2009. That's 17 years ago. A lot of water has gone under the bridge since then. And I've been touring with Steve for 13 years all over the world, and still doing it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I actually had the chance to see you guys in Fort Lauderdale about maybe a month and a half ago. And
Yeah.
first of all, what you were saying about being starstruck when you met Steve, I actually did a short interview with Steve backstage, and I was just as starstruck. In my video, I'm sweating, so I totally understand that. But also mainly what really stood out to me at the show. Of course, you guys put on an amazing show, but for people who don't know how the Steve Hackett shows work, the first half of it is all his solo work, and then you guys do an intermission, and then you come back and you do all the Genesis hits.
Yeah.
So what really stood out to me after the intermission, you could just see once you guys started playing those Genesis hits, people's eyes lighting up. These people, they were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and their eyes lit up like you could see that they were remembering being kids again when they
Yeah.
heard songs like Supper's Ready, Firth of Fifth. For you having been one of these fans of that music yourself, what's it like now being the one delivering these experiences and these moments on that stage to the other fans?
Well, I've got similar questions before. For instance, do you feel like you're part of Genesis legacy, or do you feel like you are becoming, one of the Genesis guys? And the answer to that is definitely no. This is something new to me. This is like with interpretation of the music, music that I love. Uh, there are moments on stage that I will never forget. The reaction from some of the audience, when they cry or when they go mad. Or I've told some. I think I've told one of the interviewers earlier about this incident in Vicenza, Italy, last summer. This guy was sitting in front of me. I mean, I could see his facial expressions and everything. So, but he was in the first row, and when we came on to do Supper's Ready, the first line, and walking across the sitting room, that big. That was too much for him. He fell down on his knees crying. He
Oh,
was just
wow.
literally crying, and I lost my voice. I just got a crack in my voice. I got so emotional from watching that, seeing his reaction to what was happening on stage. It was an incredible moment for me. I think one of the strongest moments ever for me, seeing is that strong reaction. Because you don't always see the audience that well, but I did that night. I saw them very well.
I'm sure that happens quite a bit with the audience connecting to the music like that, even if they're not showing it as much as he did.
Oh yeah, but in Italy, they all wear their hearts on their sleeves. Italians are very, very sentimental and emotional, and they can get quite mad, and in a lovely way, I might say. But they're very, very, very emotional, very sweet.
I also want to talk a little bit about your most recent album,
Yeah,
Monumentata. Uh,
yeah,
so I was listening to it, and one thing that stood out to me, first of all, it's an amazing album, and we're going to get into kind of the music of it in a bit. But in the booklet, at the start of the booklet, you share a really personal note about your father's passing and your relationship that you had with your parents throughout your life.
Yeah.
And you can kind of hear some of those themes run through some of the songs on the record, and
Hmm.
especially on the title track. Was this album
Yeah.
born out of these experiences, or is it more that these events kind of naturally found their way into the music just based on the
Uh,
time you were creating the album?
the latter. When I started to write the songs, that was like 3 years before my father's passing. One song, for instance, one of the earlier songs that I worked for a long time with, went through many changes. A song called Wildfire. That it's a heavy song. I had no idea where I was going with this album at all. I just felt that probably should go back to my more heavier side, the rock side that I I did before. Like, the Bride Said No album, for instance, that's a rock album too. And I just felt want to go back to that because my previous album, Spiritus Mundi, was a very, sort of scaled down acoustic album with lots of orchestral sounds, um, more intimate, so to speak, that album. So I wanted to rock out. Uh, as I mean, I started writing songs at 21, and the album came out last year in 25. So that's almost 4 years. I was finished with album 24, but it took a long time before they released it. So it was basically ready a year before it came out. I just had to go and master it and all those and all the booklet and the artwork, all that, of course, took some time. Uh, so, but when my dad passed away, it's going to be almost 2 years ago now in July 24. Uh, that sort of became like the crown jewel of the album because it's like a journey towards that last song on the album
Mm-hmm.
where I really, I mean, the closer you get to the ending of the album, the more I open up. You can say, even though I think Secret Lover, the first track, is really a punch in the face to those who really let me down in my life. But I don't want to end on a sour note. Even though Monumentata, that song is sort of sentimental and it's kind of sad. It's not a bitter song, really. It's more like I accepted things as they come. There's no point in, you know, we have a saying in Swedish, don't grieve over spilled milk.
Yeah, I think on that song I was just listening to it again, and it's a beautiful song. It's very like delicate, which I think is really nice about it. But also, if you listen to the lyrics, it has such a positive kind of outlook on everything in my mind.
Yeah, you're very, very right. It feels like I am. When I wrote the lyrics, they were so easy to. That lyric was really easy to write because it just dug out of my own life.
Hmm.
What's been happening with me and my father, and also, of course, the notion of knowing that it's too late now. We can't do anything more about this. We can't repair what's been, broken because he's gone. But I had a kind of strange relationship with both my parents. Uh, it wasn't the easiest because they were more into themselves, not so interested in their children. And what do you do? And but I love my parents, of course. They were my parents. But it was kind of hard to for me to accept certain things about them. Uh, but as you grow older and you start to accept things for what they are, instead of trying to change things, it gets easier to get through hard times, even. Uh, but now that when my dad passed away, I felt basically nothing because I hadn't seen him in many years and we didn't speak or stuff like that. But it was nice to sort of pay tribute to both my parents, but my dad, especially because of the album's title. Tata means daddy in Hungarian, and my dad was half Hungarian, and monument, as in monumental feeling of loss, or could have been a monumental feeling of loss, because it really isn't, but it's more monumental feeling of knowing that, oh, they're gone. I'm probably the next one to go one day. Of course, it could be my siblings, but interesting, interesting notion. That's how the album's title came about, anyhow.
And then beyond the lyrics of the album, because the lyrics do tell such a great story, but I feel like the melodies and the instrumentation really carry a lot of that emotion as well. A lot of the songs I was kind of able to tell what the story was kind of gonna be about, or something like that, based off of the instrumentation. When you sit down to write a song, do you usually start with the music, or do you start with the
Yeah.
lyrics?
No,
The
music.
music.
Yeah. What I do is that I improvise just sounds, really. Like I sing like gibberish, like make believe English, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like English. If you wouldn't know English, you'd think that, oh, that's English, because it sounds like it. So, and it comes very natural to me. So it's just I'm Raja, Raja, Dara, Lara, shit
Mm-hmm.
like that. And then I start writing the lyrics. I listen back to what I've done, to the bullshit I make, and for some reason those vowels, especially the vowels, they have a reason for being there. That this is comes naturally, those vowels, and
Mm-hmm.
and so I try to write lyrics that reminds me of those vowels. They sort of sound similar.
Well, the lyrics definitely fit in there.
It's a lot of work. Is a lot of what a lot of I mean, I guess through past every song I get a new couple of gray hairs. This is it is really hard work, and writing lyrics comes from a different part of my brain than the music. Music comes just emotions, just feelings. What feels right, what feels wrong, and you just know. Lyrics, ah, it can be very, very. They quite can be such a bitch writing a good lyric. You just, but in the end, there's only one song I wasn't happy with my lyrics because I was rushed in the end. It's a Regal Bastard. That's the song of my. This is the third album. Yeah, the third album. I was rushed. They work, but they're not the best. And I always want to feel like I'll come up with some good lyrics again, and the past master with myself.
Another thing that really stands out on this album, I think, is the lineup of musicians you have playing on it. I mean, you have
Mhm.
you have Tony Levin, who obviously has done a lot of work with King Crimson and Peter Gabriel, and he's just a
Yeah.
legend. And then you have Nick Beggs, and then you also have Marco Minnemann. Uh, how did these collaborations come together? And then what do you think these collaborations brought to the album?
How they come together is basically me uh, scanning through the songs and listening to, because what's in there from the beginning, they're just my programming, of the bass and the drums, and I'm pretty skillful programmer, but it's just something lacking there when you don't have the real thing, when you don't have real drums or real bass. It gets more personal if you get real musicians in there. It sounds more alive. So I scanned through, and I just like there's a song. The second track of the album is called "That's Not Me." It's kind of funky, heavy song. I just because I've been working with Tony Levin before. He plays on 3 or 4 of my albums, so 4, I think. So I just heard his bass in my head. Oh, that's got to be Tony playing that. So what I do, and I have when I've sort of when I know who I want, then I'll contact them. And I was lucky because he had a break from touring and recording. So he did 2 songs for me. Then that's not me and Monumentata. That's Tony Levin. Marco, I know from not 2019 when he joined the Steve Hackett band for a couple of shows, and we sort of hit it off. And so I just asked him, "Can you play drums for 2 tracks for me?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." So that's what I do. I scan through my songs and I realize who I want in there, and then I ask them. Very, very rarely do I get turned down. I think it happened once because not a lack of interest, more lack of commitment due to time.
Do they come in to actually play the music, or do they send you tracks?
They send me tracks
Okay.
digitally. Yeah, they recorded that themselves in their own facility, their own studio.
That's amazing because when you listen to the album like through headphones or something all together, it sounds like such a full. It sounds like everybody's in one room playing it
Yeah,
almost.
that's a trick. You see, you should how you mix it together to make it sound like the real thing. I would love to go into the studio with the full band and record what I have. I would really love to do that, but number one, extremely expensive.
Hmm.
I don't have that money. And now, especially now, for the next album, I need to find a way to release my music because I don't have a record deal anymore. With Inside Out, I had to deal with 5 albums and I've just done them. And I don't think they're going to, extend my time with them because they're letting bands go now because the record sales are dropping for everyone and there's no money in it anymore.
Yeah, it's a hard business now.
It really is, and I fully understand if that they have to drop artists because they're not making enough money to sustain what do you say, liable or viable?
Hmm.
What do you say, liable or viable? I always get
Viable.
confused. Viable thing, yeah, and so I'm just happy being able to sustain a career in the business anyway by just being out there with Steve and
Hmm.
doing the Genesis stuff.
Yes.
It sure pays my bills, and my bills are high.
I also want to talk a little bit about some of the specific songs on the album. My favorite
Yeah.
song on the album was "I'm Stepping Out." I
Oh,
don't have a reason. It's just it's so unique, and it's something about the way it just the sound is almost like addicting. I think I've played it maybe 12 times in the past week. I also watched the video for it. The video for it is so cool because you're kind of doing a one man show
yeah.
telling the story. You're playing I think 8 different characters. What
5.
was five different characters? What
Yeah.
was the vision behind doing this video and then also creating this song?
Well, it is my coming out song, as and people many years suspected I was a gay man, and I thought, well, why not tell them that, this is who I am. So I
Hmm.
thought, and 2026, let's face it, very few people care about things like that anymore.
Hmm.
You know, most people. I mean, a lot of people got either a gay brother or a gay friend, so whatever. But I just felt like I wanted to be open with it, and so it felt wonderful to do that video with all the characters, and even the bearded guy is me, the quartermaster,
Yeah, that's
and
the best disguise out of all of them for sure.
that disguise is just incredible because you can't tell it's me. It's
Hmm.
impossible. I mean, I can't even tell it's me. Or the bride,
Hmm.
no, not the bride, the
The
widow, the
widow.
widow,
Widow.
with all the makeup and the film noir kind of a thing. God, I had so much fun doing that, and it's a bit bizarre. The whole thing is the song is a bit bizarre, and it sounds like something, almost like a Adam's Family or
Yes.
Pink Panther kind of a thing. Dum da dum da 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 da. It has a dum da 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 da. It's the same kind of a world, if you like, of music. So it's very theatrical. And also, my vampire trilogy that I did, the first 3 albums. So later I abandoned that character for the last 2 albums. But I thought, why not just let him have a little cameo, Let him come back for one. Let him come back for one song.
Yeah, Shoei's still around.
Yeah, I mean, he's still around somewhere, lurking in the dark. But I thought, oh, I do have some really, really sweet fans who follow me all the time, and it's basically for them because a lot of people maybe never heard my stuff before.
Hmm.
They wouldn't know what that is all about, really.
It's a
The
little
vampire.
Easter egg.
That's right.
Hmm.
So I do that for the fans more than anything else, and for myself.
And then overall, just the album as a whole feels so cohesive thematically, but at the same time, it's exploring different sounds in each song. I mean, you have the darker, spooky feel like we were just talking about, and I'm Stepping
Yeah.
Out. You have kind of a harder, more straight ahead rock sound with Wildfire. You have some more progressive sounds on Monte Carlo Priceless, and then even some of your songs have some R&B type style I hear in the guitar in some of them and things like that. Was this contrast something that you set out to achieve when you were making the album?
No.
It's just all your styles mixed into one?
Yeah. I can't help it. It's like
Hmm.
if I have a song, I have an idea that I feel is very strong. Like one of the Monte Carlo Price is a good example of when I feel like, wow, I have something really strong here. I don't really care what genre I'm in anymore. I got a strong song,
Hmm.
and what follows it, like Flowerland, is. I mean, one of my oldest friends said, "Oh, that sounds like that could be written by somebody in Steely Dan." I didn't even think about that, because I'm not a Steely Dan fan, believe it or not. I like some songs, but I'm not a fan. But I like good songs, and Flowerland, both Monte Carlo Prices and Flowerland, sort of harks a bit back to the '60s to me. It has that '60s vibe to it. And so I'm going through my life in a way because I was born in '59, so I was a child in the '60s, and that's when I first got into music in the '60s. So it's like an echo back from my childhood with those songs. Of course, I can't expect everyone to understand this and, to like, oh, this is what it is. So it's kind of nice for me to talk about it and explain why the album came out the way it did. Every song is personal. Every song basically has to do with something or some time in my life, for
And
sure.
each song is so unique, but at the same time, if you listen to the album from start to finish, they all go together and feel like they're telling kind of, like you said, like one big story that kind of feels like different parts of your life. And I just think it's so cool how that all came together.
You're so sweet. Thank you. I mean, because that's always my concern, how are the people going to react to this? I mean, to all the styles, and that I just don't do one thing. I do quite a few things on this album, but there's got to be something that's linking them together. Either it's my voice or it's the way I write. You know, uh, I don't hear that much of a R&B or funk influence in modern day prog rock. I really don't. But you must know that in the '80s, I was in this band. We sounded like we were almost doing like Prince stuff, really funky stuff. And that was just like 1 or 2 years after I did the Swedish disco single. I met these guys and they were playing funk, and I love funk. So that band became One by One. We were called One by One, and we even supported Lionel Richie for 2 nights in Sweden.
Oh, wow.
But I was drunk, ruined my voice. I ruined my voice doing rehearsals, and I was absolutely pissed on stage. I was drinking whiskey in order to save the voice. I thought it
Hmm.
only made it worse. I Disaster. I lost my confidence after that for a while. Oh God, yeah, I've been through so many weird things, and we could talk forever about them, but we don't have time.
Yeah, but that's such a cool development on how all your styles came together like that. I also, lastly, just wanted to talk about some of your upcoming shows. Of course, you're heading out across Europe this summer and in the fall with Steve Hackett's Genesis Revisited tour. And I think you guys are doing 35 or 40 shows. You're doing quite a bit. And it's just amazing how you guys keep going like that, like one tour after another, just keep doing shows. What are you most looking forward to about this run of shows?
Let me think. You're talking about the whole year or just the beginning, the first 3 weeks we're going to do
Yeah,
in Europe?
the first leg of it in Europe.
Okay. So starting out in Paris, I love Paris. So that's nice. That's a nice opener. Uh, then we do Brussels and then actually Sweden. We do Malmo, the city I was raised in.
Oh wow, so you kind of get to go back to.
Yeah. And I'll yeah, probably see some of my relatives or something. Um, and then Copenhagen, where my ex-girlfriend lives. I had a relationship with a girl when I was really young too. I mean, why shouldn't die curious, you know? So, uh, and we're still in contact. Anna is her name, and she will probably come. I'm looking forward to seeing her again. What else? And then we go down to Germany. I think we do 6 or 7 shows in Germany. Looking forward to those German shows. They're always a good crowd, good venues. I like Germany a lot because everything is so neat. You know, they're very everything is in order. You know, you don't mess about in Germany. You know? So it's good stuff. And then of course Holland, the Netherlands. They I think it's the biggest prog crowd in Europe. We always sell out. We already sold out those 3 shows. We haven't sold out any other shows.
Yeah, I saw that on your website. That's
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah. And then of course I love touring the UK. We do. I haven't counted them, but quite a lot of shows in October, and we ended at the Royal Albert Hall again for the third time. I
Which
know
that's one of the most iconic venues in the world.
it is, truly is, and so looking forward to that. And then going back to good old Italy in November for I think it's 5 shows or something, not that many. But what also looking forward to actually to be I have the whole summer off. You know, I come back home on June the 2nd. My birthday is on the 4th. I turn 67 years old.
Oh wow.
Well, I know. I don't look it, do I?
No.
To tell me, I don't look it. That's good light. It's got the sun. The sun. You see the sun and thing right
Oh
there.
wow, that's beautiful. It's so funny.
Um,
It's evening over there. It's midday over
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and talk to me about your new album and talk to me
Um,
about touring with Steve. It was amazing to get to hear all your stories. And I'm
yeah.
definitely going to link in the description where people can purchase your album and also where they could catch you going on tour in Europe and hopefully maybe some US dates coming soon. I know people are excited to see you on tour.
I'm excited to see them too.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.